I'm happy to be with you at this critical time, because somehow, if you're going to dream these dreams, some of them cost money. And you have to find a way of financing them. And the Norwegian way of financing is taxing big corporations, extracting resources properly. And one of the ways is becoming an owner. We'll talk about that as an outline for this presentation. I wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been for a Canadian journalist in the Tyee, down in the Vancouver area. Mitchell Anderson came to Norway and wrote a series of articles. Mitchell is with us in the back today. Thank you, Mitchell. I appreciate this. With the background that Tony outlined, it may sound strange to you that I believe in unions. I worked for the government oil company Statoil back in the 75 to 78, and I helped set up the chapter of the engineering union in that company and served on the first board. I left them and went to the Phillips Petroleum company, and I was asked to start one there. It was a little more difficult than an American oil company, but by the time I met management, we had a union there too, but now I was management. I couldn't be a member. I had to negotiate with them. But it helped having been a union organizer. When I went to the NPD, I quit Phillips because I no longer believed in what Phillips Petroleum Company wanted to do. It took almost 19 years. I have principles and a strong wife. She was happy when I quit. And I went to the NPD as a director. And of course, as a director of a big unit, the resource division, I couldn't be a union member. But I went there with a promise that I could rotate out and become a normal worker some years later. It took from 97 to 2004. And what union did I actually join then? I went to the union that was a member of the Labor Federation, the Norwegian Federation of Labor. It's the hugest, most political organization, lots of push, lots of media attention, big political push behind. Because I happen to believe that we can make, as members of unions, we can make a difference in the society. So, I had some help from that, because in 2010-11, I became a whistleblower. And you're not very happy as a whistleblower in Norway either. Not in the US, not anywhere. But I didn't have to leave the country and go to Moscow. But after 3.5, 4 years of writing public letters and talking to the general auditor, trying to get them to take a case, I got fired. I was asked to leave my office after all those years in less than 4 hours. I sued them. I had the union behind me, free legal advice, lots of advice into that one. Ladies and gentlemen, the unions in Norway have good lawyers. The government didn't want to meet us in court, and I didn't want to spend the next 5 years all the way to the Norwegian High Court, so I settled with them last year at about this time, actually in February. And we agreed that by April I would take early retirement, which I had planned to do anyway because my wife wanted to retire too, and she's strong. She said, "You're not going to work, you're going to go home with me." So I'm a smart guy. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mitchell came to Norway, wrote these articles. I ended up on a Ottawa panel with Gil, your president, and we saw each other on TV. I recognized your face and you recognized me. And then CBC, the national program, came to Norway, and I went on Canadian TV along with other Norwegians, and the program was aired on March 23rd. So, what's my message to you? Publicly owned company, Petro-Canada, was created in 1976. It was privatized partially in 1991. Petro-Canada probably didn't have the right framework. It didn't really honor the Albertans' issues. And in my opinion, later when I looked at the company, maybe it was set up to fail, I don't know. But we created, as you can see, Statoil in 1972. We're a little ahead of you. I'll come back to that. We're behind you in privatization. We privatized partially in 2001. But as I stand here with all Norwegians, I still own 67% of the company. Now, you owned things in Petro-Canada until 2004. I think it was about 19% that was sold out at that time. And who is making the profits today? Who owns the brand name? Suncor. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll come back to Suncor profits later. In Norway, when we privatized, we followed you again. New public management, this idea that everything should be the bottom line today, not the future. So Statoil, the privatized, sold the petrochemicals. They're making a lot of money now with low crude oil prices, not smart. They wanted to sell the refineries. Luckily, nobody wanted to buy them. But they did sell the gasoline chain. The Statoil brand name is now owned by a Quebec company, Couche-Tard. And lo and behold, because we're a member of the Economic Union of EU, European Union, they registered a company in Luxembourg to avoid paying Norwegian taxes. Smart move? I don't think so, not for the public of Norway. So, lots of details on this slide. I'll leave it with you. The presentation will be available. Don't worry about it. But who's cashing in? I think you already heard that from Tony, and you've probably seen it in the material provided before that. I'm getting stinking rich, and you're not doing very well. But we were both born lucky. I mean, Canadians, Albertans, and Norwegians were born lucky because the resources are here in our countries. How come? I had to dress smart today because I'll be on the video. My wife told me dress smart and no four-letter words. I heard Alex Himmelfarb yesterday, but I won't do that. My wife, I'm keeping to the promise. But I feel like it. You are getting... And she was here, she would point the finger and say, that's close to oil field trash, my friend. Now, when you look at this, the Norwegian fund is not 905 anymore. I think the Albertans is about the same number. The Norwegian fund is more than $1 trillion and is growing as I'm speaking. Why? Because we put money in. In Norway, we tax a lot of things. I'll come back to that too. Just like you, we have higher salaries than the rest of the Scandinavian countries. Even Sweden, the child care is good there, but they don't get as much as we do. We have higher salaries in the public and the private because of the pressure from the oil business. That's what happened here in Alberta too. There's an error here. Child care is not free in Norway. It's only free for people with low wages, and that makes sense. If you can afford to pay, of course you should pay. I mean, we all know public services don't come free. We have to pay for it. Taxes somewhere. Okay, no more on that. We actually pay value-added tax. I'm a proud Norwegian paying 25% value-added taxes on practically everything. And the taxes work. I get them back. My children and my grandchildren get them back. We pay 27% corporate tax, 27%. And if you're an oil company, you're lucky enough to pay 51% special tax on the profits you make in the oil and gas business offshore. 78%, yeah! And lo and behold, if you know the system with tax deductibility and all that, and know how to work with the Norwegian government, it's a real bargain. They absolutely scramble to get into Norway. Big companies don't leave. Got news for you. Norway is fantastic compared to Venezuela and all the lovely places you can go. And I also got news for you. We pay for 1 liter of unleaded gasoline close to $2.20, $2.50. But that goes into good use publicly too. Why am I here? I went to the University of Alberta and got my petroleum education. The Alberta that I remember is on this slide. Good resource management policies, good social programs, Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund created in 1976. They talked about it before I left, end of 75. I admired Alberta. I loved Albertans. I loved Canada. I wanted to stay. But my wife, as you see, our first daughter was born in Edmonton in October 74. My wife said, I'm going to take our daughter back to her grandparents. You can do what you want. Yes, boss. Now, what do I mean with the lifeboat we kept here until 1982? She also liked Alberta. She also liked Canada. We left money in a Canadian bank to fly all of us back to Alberta and live for 3 months. And when our second child, the son, was born in Norway, 77, we put more money in so we could bring him too. But by 1982, Norway had surpassed Alberta on all accounts. All the things you talk about in this convention. Childcare, education, health, social programs for the poor, unemployed, unskilled, the sick, the elderly. And they had even improved further on what we beat you on when I got there too. That was a common pension plan for everybody. Back to the theme tomorrow or on Sunday. So in 1982, my boss, you know who that is, said, we need to expand our house. We need more room. Child number 3 was arriving. So she took the money back from Canada and invested. I wasn't quite sure, but I didn't have much of a vote in that one. 2 children voted with her. So, that was the lifeboat explained. Why are you guys so nice? I mean, a Parkland Institute report that was made available to me by Mitch in the back here and updated in 2012 showed, and I promised you we'll get back to the profits. Hey! Suncor, 4.3 billion. Imperial, 3.37. The province, deficit, 3.37. I know if I was a politician where I would go for money. I know if I was a voter here, I'd be looking for politicians that wanted to follow me on that track. So there is no wonder. It's not just the good, beautiful-looking mountains close to Calgary that companies want to come to your province or your country. You're giving it away. And everybody loves free gifts. Oh, yeah. So, even we, Norwegians, as rich as we were, you saw the fund going up every moment, we have benefited. Our oil company, Statoil, came here and joined the tar sands. Did they get flack back home? The environmental aspects and all that? Yeah. Do they sustain that on every General Assembly meeting? Yeah. Why? It pays to the bottom line. What are you getting? why do you let the companies keep most of your money? Is it spin control, money lobbying, captured governments? What is it? Does anybody really believe that companies will go elsewhere? Where is that? Wonderful places like Venezuela, I already mentioned it. Middle East, no terrorism, no problems in the Middle East, are there? No way, Jose. Africa? Russia? Are you welcome? Would you keep anything? Would you steal what you have? You're not welcome in Saudi Arabia. They run their own business. The truth is, ladies and gentlemen, they really have very few places to go left in the world. So Alberta and Canada, wonderful. Does anybody believe that they're having a hard time? I mean, read their profit sheets. I know who's having a hard time. You, Canadians, Venezuelans, Russians. Lots of people having a hard time. In Norway, we lost a lot of revenue too, but we have the fun. We don't have any panic, not yet at least. But we're losing jobs too, just like you. Friends of mine were fired last week. 2 of them, married. No income, 3 months from now. The bottom here, I don't think it ever happened. Fort McMurray cut school weeks just to 4 days. But just seeing that news item sent to me by Mitchell Anderson astounded me. I visited the Great Canadian Oil Sands in 1974. I went to Fort McMurray in 1974. And even then, the tailing ponds scared me. So, spin control. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 famous politicians, very good at it. Oil prices are low and may still drop. Why did Shell, smart oil company, then pay twice the stock value for British gas? No, I think it's time to buy companies funded by the public if you want to create a publicly owned company. It's an opportunity right now. And there's quite a bit of speculations in your newspapers. I've been reading them the last couple of days about that's going to happen here too in the tar sands. And really, ladies and gentlemen, how long will Saudi Arabia settle to sell for half the price they learned very well that the world economy could sustain? Why are they doing it? Plenty of speculations. Politically, do they want to help America hurt Putin and Russia? Russia is in trouble to fund their military and all the other stuff scaring us in Europe. I don't know. You can speculate all you want. But Saudi knows they're selling it cheap right now. And they're doing it to get back market. They're doing it because nobody else in the OPEC wanted to help them cut production. They asked. They even asked Norway. We said no, too dumb. So, this is another way of looking at it. You get a little sad. We captured in 2012 about $50, 49 to the public revenue per barrel of oil equivalent. That's oil and gas, gentlemen, too. UK 20, Canada as a large 7.6, and you guys around 4. Now the numbers for 2013 are even worse for you. So you should think that Norway is not the place to go if you're an oil company, but I already told you it's not true. In my opinion, Alberta, Canada, and UK are giving it away to private investors. You elected to sell out your publicly owned oil company. So did UK. Not smart. Well, it's your choice. Norwayling, a new word. I couldn't resist commenting on it. Culture counts. Yeah, it's true. Alberta cannot use 100% of the Norwegian model. You are landlocked. You have to export, import through neighboring provinces or Montana and all of US. We are on the ocean like we were in the Vikings' time, and we travel, and we don't have much respect for central governments. Never had. So, the Vikings had to leave Norway in the spring. They tarred their ships before the ice went in the fjord, and you know why? Because if the able-bodied men stayed, they would eat everything that was going to go in the ground and give harvest next year. We were starving in Norway. They went to trade and plunder. Who were in charge at home? Their wives. Do you wonder why we have strong women in Scandinavia? No. Boss, I delivered. Norway still has to import food. We're now 5 million people, a little bit more than Alberta. We import a lot of food, also from Canada. You guys have food too. What's wrong with your system? I'm asking you, you're the voters here. Lots of Norwegians had to leave, and some of them are here. Some of them are in the United States, some in South America. I have relatives there too. Some in Australia. And guess what? If the oil and gas fails, we may have to leave again. The room in Canada, I may still have to think about that Canadian lifeboat. So, also in Norway, people move. That was part of this Norwayling comment. Yeah, I had lots of friends in Alberta. They're not here anymore. Some are dead, unfortunately. Some are living elsewhere. Some are in the US. Some are in the Far East. But in Norway, if you pay into the system, the benefits follow you. Your pension plan follows you. Okay? Now, long-term investments need political stability. Companies and authorities should be in the same boat. Don't pick a Viking ship, it's not very effective. But it's illustrative. And if you're in the same boat as owners, you need to decide that you are really competing in the worldwide market. You're not competing with each other. You're competing in the worldwide market for talent and investment. In Norway, unions, companies, even American oil companies work together with the authorities to capture the resources on behalf of the taxpayer. When they do that successfully and make profits, the companies are allowed to keep their share. But remember, by owning 80% of the resources, we also pay for 80% of their investment. So it's only right we should tax them about 80%. Good system. Works for everybody. You're in the same boat. No need to change because oil prices change. You don't need windfall profit taxes. You don't need any of that garbage that people say create instability. The picture of the rock, that's called Pulpit Rock, is near Stavanger. And long term, I put your mind to there is a little bit of a crack there. Geologist tells me that that might fall into the fjord about 1 million years from now. Maybe you should worry, but not too much. So long-term stability, ladies and gentlemen, and predictability. This is a Troll A platform leaving the fjord north of Stavanger, going out to the North Sea. It's going to produce gas, and there is also a couple of oil platforms connected to this field, not shown here. It's going to produce gas for close to 100 years, delivering it to Europe. That's long-term, ladies and gentlemen. And the Troll sitting there has been there even longer. My grandchild at 3 claims she saw one last year. So, in Norway, we created the 10 oil field commandments, Standing Committee of the Parliament in 1971. All the policies here were back to the Alberta legacy. We learned from the Alberta Energy Conservation Board. We learned from the Lougheed way of dealing with resource management. We copied the Heritage Fund. We owe a lot to you. So, since I'm a state retiree, not a Phillips retiree, You had to pay for my travel and my hotel, thank you. But you have my time, preparation, being here and all of that for free, because I owe you. I owe you as a Norwegian citizen for the legacy, and owe you as an individual for free education and a scholarship back in the 73 to 75. If you look at this, you should look at the green paragraphs, especially number 5. Flaring of gas was all about prudent resource management back then. Greenhouse gases wasn't really an issue in 1971. But in Norway, we believe in Lutheran and Calvinistic principles. Thou shalt not waste resources. If you can't produce the oil without taking care of the gas properly, leave the oil in the ground till you can. Good advice. Now, some of these points are not relevant to you, but the number 8 in red is what I'm here for today. A state-owned oil company shall be established to secure the government's economic interest and to have a positive cooperation with national and foreign interest. That created Statoil in 72. I came back from Canada in 75, and I joined Statoil, 75 to 78. So, ladies and gentlemen, what could Alberta change? Don't copy Norway, you can't. You're not a free country. One of the biggest astounding facts that got to me before I got here was that ERCB is now paid by the industry. 1,000 people with a budget of around 165 million in 2013. Regulators paid by the industry? I mean, who are you putting? The tiger to watch after the chickens? Come on. Create a publicly owned company to be treated like everyone else. That's the key. Don't give them any favors. They need to be competitive. They should be competitive. And do it properly. Petro-Canada didn't really have a chance, as I already alluded to. So find a good name. Go after it if you dare to, if you can get the political vote to do. Taxes are better than royalties, number 3. Anytime, as I told you already, you don't have to adjust every time the oil prices goes up and down. And lo and behold, if anybody tells you, companies won't accept that, they did accept windfall profit tax in the US. Every one of them. They complained, but they accepted it because it was fair. On the contracts, court cases always hurt your credibility, and they cost money and time, waste of time too. But change them as soon as possible, where that is legal. And lo and behold, if you look at the contracts and look at the laws and the rules, you can do more than you think. Then I just listed by existing companies with competent staff, and you need to pay competitive wages because you need the best people to work for you, your children, and your grandchildren. And be surprised, plenty of oil-field people out there that want an honorable job, like I wanted when I took the job with the MPD. My salary dropped to 1/6. My kindergarten wife was very happy. I was no longer on the public list of those that had horrendous wages that nobody could defend. And I was happy too, because I didn't have to explain. In Norway, you can actually read in the newspaper what people make. So I'm getting towards the end. And I'm back to culture, to the Viking, and I'm back to the meeting room, and I'm back to a famous Norwegian oil minister, 86 to 89. I love the guy. He had agreed to a meeting with oil executives complaining about the new framework. We had tightened the regime, and they were threatening to leave because it was no longer profitable to be in Norway. They had a long meeting. Everybody was allowed to say their word, and he was scheduled to go to the parliament for a hearing. So he looked at his watch when everybody was finished, And he said, I have to leave, but I recognize that nobody has left the table. And then he looked at his bureaucrats. So you guys didn't take enough. That's my conclusion. And then he left. Dead silence. Nobody left. That's Viking Pucha, or whatever you want to call it. I had the pleasure of being the resource director and receiving people from around the world. A big US oil company, the biggest, had their chief executive come to Norway, and he was very busy telling me that we were doing things wrong and how good they were and that we should be happy that they were there. We had about a meeting set aside. After 15 minutes, I said, "Stop, sir. You're wasting our time." And in our tax system, our taxpayer pay everything. On my side, I had 2 people with me. They pay our salaries. But as a matter of fact, your company will tax deduct your travel here and your time, and that's legal in Norway. So I think we should quit talking bullshit. Let's go on to facts. You have some issues, we have some issues. Let's state them, use the next 45 minutes to see if we can solve them. He was just looking to his lawyer and saying, is what Rolf states right? And I said, yeah. He said, yeah, he's right. We got down to business. We finished 5 minutes ahead of time. They had what they want, and we had what we wanted. Respect. I'll stop here. That flag and the bottom line text tells you everything. Dream no little dreams, but you need to finance them. I've shown you one way. I know you need political support. Good luck in the upcoming election and in the federal one coming fall. Alex told you yesterday that he believed that you can change Canada. I believe you can. I think time is ripe from everything I'm reading from Norway. But I was far away and I had, forgotten about you. I didn't know how far down you were. So Mitch, thank you for bringing me here. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm available. I'll be around for the rest of the convention too. Thank you for listening.
Just a second.